All right, welcome everybody. So I appreciate you guys stopping in for this conversation. We're live on YouTube, Twitch, Rumble, and Facebook. So it just so turns out that a couple days ago I started this project that was totally off topic to this, and then true to the think tank, you guys started reaching out to me, and yesterday someone hit me up with this food processing plant thing, and it sent me straight down the research trail. And upon doing so, I dropped what I was doing. My other video is going to come out shortly. It's going to be a recorded one, not a live event, but that one was on explaining to people why these major companies are so woke and don't seem to care about customers. But that's going to sit on the back burner right now because this is truly disturbing. And we're going to get into it. I want to give some people a minute or two to get on, but I'm ready to rant about this, and I want to hear what you guys have to say. So while I wait for those people to get on, let's get ready to rant.
Does anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
I want you to write, I want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crying in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad.
The whole world's gone crazy! Am I the only one around here gonna think damn about the rule?
You have the luxury of not knowing what I know.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
All right, so that's enough time for that. And I see Christy Langbang is already dropping some information here, some links to some information regarding this issue. But, and we recently did a video on this as well. We did not on this, but on the food situation. Ours was really the whole thing to me, and again, you can give me where you come from after I'm done with this laundry list of processing plants. But in the end, you could tell me what you think it is, if you think it's all just coincidence or what. But we just got done doing a piece where where I was explaining that it just seemed weird that we have these bio labs in Ukraine, and we denied that they existed. Then we admitted they existed, but said there was nothing there. Then we said, okay, maybe there's something. Maybe there are no pathogens though. Then we said, okay, well there are pathogens, but they're not dangerous. They're just for research for health issues and things of that nature. And then we said, okay, well there are pathogens there that can actually kill livestock and cause all kinds of problems for people. And clearly, what you were getting out of it as they continued to mold the story on these biolabs, these research centers or whatever, is that they were more than likely gain-of-function research centers that were located in Ukraine. They weren't owned by the United States, but they were funded by us. So that's kind of the same thing. And in the end, there were people talking about how livestock in the areas around these biolabs were being affected over the course of the last 4 to 5 years. There were a few outbreaks. And then all of a sudden now we have a global pandemic of bird flu. At the same time that we have all of these attacks, well, I don't want to say attacks, we don't know that, right? But all of these situations with these food processing plants. And in the end, I'm just sitting here looking at it saying, no freaking way. I want to start to get down the laundry list here because there's quite a few. It's not like this is like 5 or 6 food plants. We're talking like 20, okay? And this is all in the course of recent months. And none of us know, but like all of these things were reported on. And I'm going to post this video onto the website as well. So go under the episodes category. I'm going to put it in there, and then I'm going to list off all the different reports of these fires taking place, so that you can see that they really happened. That this isn't just some guy telling you that it happened. All of these things really happened. Okay, and in the end, it's important. The whole exercise here, and really the exercises that we do when we do these live events, is to share information. Like Christy Lang being in Facebook right now is popping off a bunch of articles, regarding the situation. That's great, right? So that's something that and this is kind of how I got onto this, right? Was that somebody from the think tank turned around and sent me a quick hit. It was a YouTube video of a guy, I think the channel was called The Black Conservative, and he was explaining to his followers, he has a much larger following than we do, he was explaining to his followers that like his kid brought it up to him, like his sons or whatever, or his kids brought it up to him, and then he looked into it and he was freaking out. He was asking his people, he's doing the same thing. He's asking his viewers for any information they have as he goes down and tries to figure out exactly how many places and what's going on with this. So it's interesting, but let's go ahead and start to get, I'm going to start this story with Tyson Foods. Okay. So we're going to start with Tyson Foods. Now, this first piece goes back to 2019. Now, this is the only one that goes back that far, but it's significant, and I'll explain why. So in Holcomb, Kansas, okay, on August 9th, 2019, there was a fire, a devastating fire at the Tyson Foods plant. Now, this plant was one of only 7 plants in the U.S. that could harvest over 6,000 cattle a week, okay? So that's 30,000 cattle a week that were not harvested because of this plant shutdown, right? So now what's key about this is that there's going to be another fire, okay, for a Tyson plant at a different location 2 years later. Now, that one was in Huntsville, Alabama, and that's July of 2021. Okay. Now, why is that significant? Because so the website Meat and Poultry, okay, which is it's not a political website. It's just a website like for restaurateurs and stuff. I used to own a restaurant, so I know these sites, and they basically will just give you like what's going, is there bad crop yield? Was there, was there a bad rain season? Is it going to cause the cost of X, Y, and Z to go up? That's the kind of information that this website gives. Now, according to them, the last large fire to a meat slaughter facility was not 2 years prior, 5 years prior, was 19 years prior. All right. So these are not common occurrences. It's not like meat plants are hazardous and are constantly going up in flames. Right. So I mean, we're talking 19 years between any major fires at any meat plant and major meat plant in the U.S. All right. So that's why I brought up the 2019 case. All right. Now, so then we've got July 2021. This one was no small incident either. Okay. And and there may be more in between, guys, right? So if you know more in between, let me know. But there's, hey, Sheila, how are you? I see you out there. But in the end, all right, I mean, have you ever needed Article 5 more than you do right now? This is just getting so creepy. Let me start getting down this list. All right. So there's Tyson Poultry again in July 2021. Then, and this was the second one, right? This is the second one that got hit that you're seeing on the image right now. So here's one facility. This one also a very large one. It was the largest poultry rendering plant in the world. All right, processing 2 billion pounds of poultry products a year. Cost of rebuilding was estimated at $200 million. All right, no small thing. Okay, now, but that's fine. Right, so we move on. Then you've got Smithfield Foods. Okay, Monmouth, Illinois, April 2021. Right, we're going right down the timeline here. It's going to take you right up to this month. Okay, this is how many freaking fires have broken out magically in these food processing plants. Now you got Smith, then you got Kellogg's. All right, Kellogg's actually was a little bit. No, that's right. Kellogg's was July. Kellogg's was July 2021. All right. So Kellogg plant, as far as, where's my Kellogg plant here? I have him here. See, so there it is. All right. So for the Kellogg plant, at each one of these, okay, they generally say they don't know the cause, but then they make up a possible cause. But in a lot of them, they have no idea what happened. And even if they do know what happened, to say this caught fire to this, there's no evidence one way or the other how exactly that went down. And again, no one was looking at these as a collective. So each one of these things were reported on as individual instances, not as, oh my God, there's 20 freaking food processing plants that have, either exploded or had huge devastating fires in the last year. Okay. And so people weren't seeing it that way. So the investigations, now someone you would think in the media would see this. Someone in the media would point this out and on mainstream and start to make a big deal about it. But yet, lo and behold, here we are. And while I'm going through this, guys, feel free to leave comments and engage. I'm going to go back and read off the comments after the fact. So I still don't seem to have my ability to burst those up on the screen. So I'm going to have to just going to have to deal. But anyway, all right, let me move on. So that's Kellogg. Then we've got JBS in September 2021 in Nebraska. All right. So JBS, all right, their story, the fire was brought under control, so this one wasn't terribly bad because they caught it. All right, so it got under control. There was a temporary shutdown. Reuters reported that this was bringing concerns at the time about the fact that from politicians and from state leaders and other leaders in the industry that it's a problem that we have so few very large meat processing facilities. All right, because small disruptions, this particular one affected 5% of the meat industry. All right, so, and it's just one location. Right. So, and there's not, and the whole location didn't go down. It was a section of it that got knocked out because they were able to catch it. Still, it took out 5% of the meat industry. Right. So going after JBS, we had Made Right Steak Company. All right. Scott Township, Pennsylvania. This happened in November 2021. So multiple explosions rocked the ground in this particular one. So the cause of the fire was determined to be an accident, but they have no explanation. So I don't know how you call it an accident. All right, there's multiple explosions. But again, any one of these situations by itself is not something that's devastating. Right? Any one of these situations alone is not one that's just like blowing you away. But like when you start to put them all together, all right, and we'll get into what else was going on in the country and in the world while all of these fires have been going on to our food supply. All right. So then we've got San Antonio food processing plant, December 2021. All right, San Antonio. This was estimated $100,000 in damage, all to the areas that were carrying the food. All right. So another. Then we've got. All right, we've got Kagrill, right? So Kagrill Nutrina plant, all right, in Lecompton Feed Mill, January 13th, 2022. So now we're into this year. An explosion while firefighters were in the building fighting the flames. Place was destroyed, okay? Place was destroyed. All right, we've got Highland Poultry. All right. Highland Poultry. This was a processing plant in Hamilton Mountain, Washington, January 2022. Entire place gone. You're looking at a picture of what's left of it right there. They believe that the fire started in a freezer and then took off and devastated the whole thing. Okay, so we've got Louis Dreyfus Company. All right, February 16th, 2022, this year, Claypool, Indiana. All right, so fire breaks out, suspending deliveries. This is their largest integrated soybean and biodiesel processing plant in the United States, okay? Cause of the fire, undetermined, all right? And we're not done. We're not even close to done. There's no way that there's no way that all of these places went ablaze and it just friggin', and no one knows what happened. No, it's all just random. Like, again, it was 20 years before the last meat processing place had gone ablaze. And with that 20 years, we've now had multiple this year we've had multiple. And it just so happens to be a year where the food supply chain is already stressed, is already dealing with a bird flu pandemic that has killed tens of millions of chickens. All right, North Carolina, we talked to you about this. North Carolina had to suspend. So now we got Shearer's plant, okay, in Umatilla County in Oregon. All right, this was another explosion, okay. They supply much of the western United States with potato and corn chips, all right. So this one again, though, an explosion. No explanation for the explosion. No one knows how it started. Okay, and again, maybe if someone was putting this all together as a group, then this would be a different situation. But they weren't putting all this together as a group. So as a result, this just went ahead and friggin' went unnoticed, and that's a problem. Right? So they blew it off thinking it's just, we don't know what exploded, but it doesn't look like a bomb, so we're going to move on, and nobody looks any further because it's only the one incident. But it's not one incident, right? And that's the reason why I want to have this discussion, because it's not one incident. So, all right, we're not done, okay? We're not done. We got Wisconsin River Meats, February 2022, Mouston, Wisconsin, all right? This one went down. Again, fire, right? So, no information has been released on the cause. Nobody knows what made this happen. It was a massive fire. As you can see in the photo, took out the entire meatpacking plant, all right? All of these things, understand that just because they're happening a month or two apart doesn't mean, the other one's still closed down. It's not like they rebuild it in a month. We've lost all of these meatpacking facilities and again, prior to 2019, there hadn't been a fire in the meatpacking industry in 20 years. We've already got multiple in 2022, along with multiple in 2021. Again, all happening at the same time that there's a bird flu pandemic, the Corona shutdowns had been stressing the supply chain system. We've got all of these other outside factors, all of these things converging on our food supply at the same time. All right, all of it. So, look again. Could it all be a massive coincidence? Absolutely. So I'm not doing an Alex Jones here where I'm telling you it absolutely isn't. But what are the odds? What are the odds? At what point do you see? It looks like I lost my camera feed here. Not sure what happened, but I'm going to have to get that back. Hold on. There I am. Just came back. All right, so I may have to add this in. I don't know if it left all of my scenes or what happened, but I may have to go ahead and add it in. What the hell? That's incredibly random. Excuse me, folks, while I correct this issue. My goodness gracious. I'm giving up all the goods here trying to get this camera in. I'm going to go ahead and continue on from where I was at and then go from there. So So here's Penobscot McCrum Potato Processing Plant, March 23rd, 2022. Another one goes down. Okay, another food processing plant goes down. All right, it's crazy. It's crazy how many of these plants have gone down. It's crazy. But yet here they are, and they're all just randomly exploding over what they keep saying are accidents. I'm like, how many accidents do we accept before we're like, this doesn't make any freaking sense? And that's kind of what I'm trying to get at with this, all right? And I understand people's reactions, but for the love of God, it's happening, right? They are on fire. They are exploding. So there's only so long that you can turn around and say, you know, that, oh, it's not really happening, because it is. It is, all right? So here we got Nestle. Nestle's another one, all right? Nestle, big fire at Jonesboro, Arkansas. That was on March 16th, 2022. Maricopa. This one was a charity, was a pantry, okay, for charity, but 40,000 pounds of food were destroyed. All right, then we got Rio Fresh. Rio Fresh, March 31st, 2022. Are you seeing how many places this is? Like, this is not coincidence. There's just no freaking way. San Juan, Texas, fire severely damages the company's fresh onion packing facility. All right, so again, it's just crazy how many freaking places are affected by this, okay? It's crazy. But then we got Taylor Fresh Foods, okay? So this is Taylor Farms, all right? This one was pretty recent. So this one actually happened. I'm actually jumping the gun here because I left a few out. I left out Deli Star Meat Plant in January 2021. I just told you Rio Fresh, but then you've got Taylor Fresh Foods, all right? So Taylor Fresh, the plant will be down for at least a year, all right? And this is a major plant, all right? So it'll be down for at least, this one happened in Salinas, California. This was April 13th, folks, all right? So it's almost at the pace of one food processing, one major, not just one local grocery store, one major food packing plant or processing center going down every single month. Every single month for a year. And again, before this started, it's been 20 years since a fire has broken out. And yet here we are. We've got that. And this just happens to happen during a time where we've got bird flu going on and we're forced to euthanize all of these chickens. What's this? Barbara's saying, who owns these plants? So, you know what? That's a good question. Most of them, I believe, are privately owned. But now you've kind of got me thinking, and I want to just do one of my quick Yahoo Finance searches, because as you all know, Yahoo Finance will tell me the creepy people that have holdings if any of these companies are private. But I would not be shocked. Tyson Foods is a big one. Tyson Foods is a big one, and I would not be shocked if Tyson Foods is under the Vanguard BlackRock scope, but I don't know. So give me a second here, and I will put them in. All right, Tyson Foods. Oops. And if they are, I'll put them up on the screen so you can see. You can see what it is. But here's the holders. Oh dear. All right, so. It is BlackRock and it is Vanguard. Okay? So it is BlackRock, it is Vanguard. So there's that. And it's not letting me share the screen right now, but trust me, you can go to Google Finance, type in Tyson Foods, and it is BlackRock and Vanguard at the top of the list. All right, so Bill Gates buying up all the farmlands, absolutely, right? So that's another comment. Bill Gates and buying up all the farmland. So Bill Gates, this is why I kind of went with that cover video that I went with, because it was very key. Bill Gates does not play a non-role in this. All right. So if you don't know, Bill Gates has been buying up farmland for a very, very, very long time. All right. He's also been an incredibly huge advocate for synthetic meat because of his obsession with climate. Okay. And the farmland is a little more cryptic, but we believe that it's because, that he has issues with the CO2 gases emitted by agriculture and whatnot. But in the end, yeah, he is the largest. Just think about that for a second. Bill Gates, he's never farmed a day in his life, is the largest old owner of farmland in the United States, right? So, yeah. So, and then the other comment here from Barbara is that you don't think Tyson owns Tyson anymore? Yeah, they don't. So that's a little. Maybe we were crisscrossing there, but I did pull them up, and they are indeed owned by BlackRock and Vanguard. So, and again, it's not a shock. I guarantee you, pick your major food processing company, whoever it may be. We went through this, right? I went through 45 minutes of pulling up major purveyors of anything. I mean, Intel, Coke, Pepsi, Apple, Facebook, Twitter. Who else? There was, there's a laundry list. Every single company that I pulled up, I just went for like the big ones in each industry, right? And BlackRock and Vanguard own the majority share of every single one of them. Even with Elon Musk just purchasing 9.2%, well, Vanguard owns 9.22%. Now, Musk is the largest holder of Twitter as an individual, but he doesn't own more Twitter than BlackRock and Vanguard. Okay, and again, Vanguard owns another 6.7%. Of course, Vanguard owns BlackRock, which means combined they own about 16 or 17%. I mean, you want creepy companies, folks. That this is it, right? Vanguard, it is mind blowing. All right. It is mind blowing when you go to Yahoo Finance and run that exercise that we did on that episode. All right, I'm telling you, every single free. I mean, you think these companies compete with each other? They don't. All right, they don't. And then I'm going to get into why all these companies are so woke too. That's the next. There's a recorded video that I'm going to send out. It's almost done. I got a few more things to tweak on it, and I'm going to publish it. But this took precedent because this just blew me away. All of these 19. So it's literally one a month. On average, it's one major food processing plant a month that has been knocked out by a random fire or a random explosion. Like, that just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. Here's Harry Splits. He says, work for Land O'Lakes and Bryan's. It isn't easy to catch those places on fire. Were there any investigations on the causes of the fire? Yeah, that's a good question, Harry. So there were investigations, but my take on it, because they all ended up saying, the cause of the fire was undetermined. Now, there were a couple of them where they said there were, and they used the term fryolator. I'm assuming, as a former restaurant guy, I've never heard the term fryolator, but I'm assuming it's like a deep fryer on a mass scale. So a couple of them said that they believe it could have been that. Now, the fact that two of them said that was a little weird, but I'm sure somewhere in the 20, there might have been a legitimate fire just broke out. But it's 20, right? It's not that I can't believe that a fire would break out at a food processing plant. But it's interesting to hear Harry say that he worked for two different food processors, and it's not easy. And it's not easy because they know, look, they have these things in place, right? When you look at Tyson, when they lost that enormous plant in 2019, if you think that they didn't absolutely lock down protocols and go crazy for fire prevention, for it to happen to them again at another major location, right? Their second largest location, for it to happen to them again 2 years later is just crazy. Is it possible? In the sense that anything is possible, it's possible. But it's incredibly unlikely. Incredibly unlikely. So we got Bill Gates has business in Siloam Springs, Arkansas. They were advertising jobs. I asked, does Bill Gates own this business? A woman quickly says, no, Blackstone owns it. Or BlackRock, I think you meant, right? Owns it. She said, Google it. I said, I did. And it said Bill Gates. So Blackstone is just another name. All right, so Blackstone, I guess maybe you did mean Blackstone, and that's just another. But all right, yeah. Look, they've been these people. It's like saying who owns Vanguard, right? Who owns the majority share of Vanguard? if you had to ask me, I would say it's got to be the Rothschilds. It's got to be. Like when you own the world, when you own everything and you're worth literally trillions of dollars, then you can have your name scrubbed off of just about anything you want. And Vanguard is incredibly cryptic to try and find out any financials on. I mean, there's some stuff that, but like they show Apple as their highest stakeholder or shareholder, and like obviously they own Apple, so they own the majority share of Apple. So then that's just a circular reference that's useless. Yeah, exactly, Harry. Fry-a-later? That's what I said. Oh, yeah. Oh, is that right? Corn dogs? Okay. Yeah, so maybe that's it. Maybe it's a corn dog. I'm thinking it has to be when they said the fry-a-later started the fire, I was like, what the hell? I'm like, fry-a-later. I'm like it almost sounds like some kind of sci-fi movie stuff. But yeah, that's what I figured. I figured it was just a huge frying vat that like, you know, that must have went Ori or something like that. But even then, like, like it's very, I mean, it's not like it's an open-ended fryer. Like that, like these are major corporations who do this, you know, in bulk always. Of course they have fire prevention hazards in place. For it to happen twice, look, it just doesn't make any sense. That's my bottom line. Is it just doesn't make, it's just way too many freaking things for it to be just whatever. And I'm saying to myself, like, you know, the more and more, and mind you, no one's ever even going to see this video except the people that are watching it now and maybe the direct followers who might check the pages every now and then, because we've been pretty much cut off from distribution since we started talking about these topics. We've been just cut off. Like once I watched the full video of the World Economic Forum and really sat down and listened and absorbed what these, like that Saadia Zahiri and Klaus Schwab, like what they were sitting there telling people and the tone of voice that they were telling them it in, like they were answering questions as not as if, you know, we hope the world will, you know, join in on this. This is a great idea. No, it was like, this is how we're going to do it. And the constant references to Corona as the reason that it's going to move forward. And then you see everything escalating from 2020 on. It's like they're telling you. You can't, you know, I didn't take New World Order and all that stuff all that seriously for many years. I knew that there were a creepy group of billionaires out there wanting to do it, you know, whether it be at Davos with the World Economic Forum or the, what is it, the Bilderberg meeting or whatever. Like these guys have been getting together doing creepy stuff for a very long time. But I never thought that it would actually, like, I never thought they'd be moving at a rate like this, where they would just come out and tell you, and then, you know, and then all of a sudden you just start seeing, you know, huge disruptions to food supply chains. I mean, keep in mind, while all this is going on, right, we got all of these food processing plants have gone down, right? So it's literally one a month for the last, like, year and a half. More than that, actually. It's because we're at, like, 18. So it's more than that. And like, when you look at it, all right, so you got the food processing plants all randomly having accidents, all of them, explosions, fires, you know, taking out entire facilities, the whole nine. Then you've got this bird flu pandemic that hits, right? At the same time, we coaxed, and don't get it twisted, we absolutely coaxed Russia into this Ukraine war. If we would have walked away from the NATO nonsense, it would have never happened. Okay, so the fact that we continued to poke that bear and it went ahead and did what we knew it was going to do, nobody was shocked. All right, they were calling it for months. All right, that they were going to go into Ukraine because they knew there was only one outcome if they didn't let the NATO thing go. So what do? They send the jackling Kamala Harris down there to make some dumb comments about still heavily pursuing Ukraine into NATO, and then boom, that's it. That lit the fuse, and it was on. All right. Well, why is that even significant? Well, guess who the world's largest provider of fertilizer is? The largest exporter of fertilizer. Of course you know. It's Russia. All right? It's Russia. And guess who's number 2, by the way? China. There you go. All right? So the two top producing that we're now in completely hostile, not the kind of hostile that existed before where there was hyperbole and anger going back and forth, like straight up hostile with the two countries who produce the most fertilizer in the world. Now, keep in mind, right? So now we've got a fertilizer issue. We clearly have a protein issue, all right? So there's our meats and vegetables, All right, that's it. There's our meats and vegetables. Now, at the same time, we've got the dollar being weakened significantly, right? We all see this on the shelves, right? We don't see anything on the shelves, right? But we all see this when you go to try and buy a steak, and it's like $30 for one steak, 2 steaks. If it's not that quality, it'll be $30 for 2 steaks. I mean, we all see this happening. I don't understand for the people who don't, for the people who like insist that this isn't happening. It kills me. It kills me. To the person who stumbles upon this conversation and then goes, this guy's crazy, or this conversation's nuts, or whatever, or he's a QAnon guy. Like to that person, like how deep in the sand can you hold your head? How deep? Like, what has to happen? Like I don't understand. It's like that scene from Naked Gun where he's like walking in front of the house that's blown up and burning and people are jumping out the windows and he's like, nothing to see here. Just clear away. Nothing to see here. Right? Because that's what's going on. And it's not like there's massive amounts of research going on. They're telling you. Like they literally made an advertising poster that you'll own nothing and be happy. Like, how could, just for a second, okay? If you want this guy, all right, this guy right here. Now, this guy it's beyond, he's like a movie character. He's so evil. Okay, look at that suit, right? Like, just the suit alone, right? He's got the accent. He's got the desire for world domination. He's got the freaking suit. Like, that suit is straight out of, like he went to, Villains Are Us and freaking picked himself up a suit. Who the hell dresses like that? That's like out of an 80s movie. He's like I'm waiting for Sylvester Stallone to come in and save us. Like, who wears suits like that? Like, this dude is like, he is the classic James Bond villain. And they're combined, with all of them together, this is far worse and far bigger of a threat to our freedom than anything China or Russia could ever do, than anything they could do. This is the ultimate threat to our freedom, okay? Because you don't get to decide, all right? We could talk all the smack we want. We can go on Facebook. We can make all these stinks. But you can do that all day. But in the end, when the dollar crashes and you can't buy anything, it's not going to be that's what's going to happen. The dollar is going to continue to fall. Okay, it's not like they're going to stop spending. They're still passing $1 trillion bills. They're still pumping money into the system. Interest rates are going to skyrocket. The dollar is going to be losing value, and then eventually you're not going to be able to buy anything. And then you could be as mad as you want, but you can't buy anything. Like, if you don't act now, there's not going to be all right, now I'll do it. Like, there's a threshold that'll get crossed. And when I say act now, you may be like, well, what do we do? What do you mean act now? I mean, call your state legislature and start getting involved. All right. And get involved with what? Get involved with convention of states. Because you can only focus on the things that you can control. That's it. You can only focus on the things that you can control. And that's something we can control. All right, so for people out there who have been told that it's scary and they're going to rewrite the Constitution, they've been rewriting the Constitution through the Supreme Court for a frickin' century, and frankly speaking, that's not even going to matter anymore. Because when all this crap hits the fan, you're not going to be governed by the Constitution anyway. You're going to be governed by permanent emergency measures that are going to be implemented because the crisis is never going to end. Are you following me? Because that's the real, okay? The crisis is never going to end. I knew this when 3 or 4 months in, all right? And there are people who are sharper than me who said this immediately. Like, once they did the lockdowns and they saw that everyone was going to stay home, they were like, we're never getting out of this. And I was like, nah, get out of here. But no, it took me a month or so later. I was like, yeah, you might be right. You might be right. Because I understand Arkansas is already on board for convention of states. Yeah, Arkansas, there's a good, right now, there's a good 20 or so, or I would say 17 or 18 that could be voting on it this year. that have it drawn up. They could be voting, but we're not yelling. Okay, that's what's happening. Is we're not yelling loud enough. I know we have some grassroots in all of these states, but clearly they need help. Clearly they need more support. Clearly they need more people on the ground. They need more letters. They need more everything. Right? So whether it's Arkansas, Kentucky, Kansas, wherever you are, okay, wherever you are, all right, we're still waiting on what is it, South Dakota. South Dakota, South Dakota has 2 state legislators who straight up insulted the population and were like, they're basically telling people, if you believe in using the Constitution in Article 5, you've got rocks in your head. Like that's where they're at. So people in South Dakota, you got 2 people to eliminate. We put them on blast on a video. You can find it. You'll see them. I'm right on the cover with it. Like that was a crazy moment. But for the most part, those are the only 2 people in that whole chamber that are stopping the whole damn thing. Like otherwise, it goes right through. It's already passed the other chamber in South Dakota. So like. Every once in a while, you come across these coconuts who like just don't understand the Constitution, don't understand American history, and don't care enough to read up on it. And they just take counsel from people instead of reading things for themselves. But whatever, you know what? I don't even care. Look, the runaway convention concept is not even a threat, but even if it was, I'd be like, screw it. We got to take the chance. We got to take the chance. They're going to get whatever the end game here. I mean, we know what the end game generally is, but whatever major strides they feel they have to get accomplished to make this stick, they're going to try and get done before 2024. And that's why you're seeing these things all happening quickly, all happening at the same time. All because once 2024 comes, if they can't control that election, if they can't control the 2024 election and another Donald Trump or DeSantis or somebody like that gets in, that's it. It's a wrap. There's no way they're making it by 2030. And then, Barbara's saying pretty much all we got now. Yeah, it is. It's all we got now. I don't know why every comment is coming in twice, but that's interesting. All right. Yeah. So, but in the end, look, I do these videos, okay, because I know that there are people like we don't get, I'm not Dan Bongino. I don't get 15,000, viewers or whatever the hell he got. Like, and I like Dan Bongino. I'm not talking bad about him, but what I'm saying is I'm not that big a channel, right? But I do this anyway. All right. And the reason I do this is because regularly, okay, even if there's only 15 or 20 people, like right now we got about 16 or 17 people on across the channels. You know what? Even in that scenario where you're just speaking to 20 people or so, I've had multiple situations where individuals have learned something that they did not know, or they were where I used to be, and believing in things like the Patriot Act and that the war in Iraq was just, and believing all the conservative side BS, all the BS that was coming from the Republican Party, and only disbelieving things that were coming from the Democrats. Right. But then, you wake up, you get older, you start to realize you're like, oh, now it's embarrassing. Now I look back at myself at how I was, back then, and I'm kind of embarrassed by the whole experience. I got to tell you. But in the end, it's good. Like everything, everything that happens to us throughout our life contributes to making us who we are now. Right. And so, the key is to focus on where you're at now. Be humble. Understand that there have been people trying to mess with our head and mess with our knowledge actively through institutions, okay? Not just like sending Facebook posts for decades on end. Right? And we've demonstrated that multiple times. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, comment. I'll be more than happy to explain it to you. But they have been doing that crap to us. And all of our generations that are pretty much alive today have had to deal with this. All right, have grown up in some form. Maybe the oldest boomers, And the few that are still alive from the World War II era, from the Greatest Generation era, maybe they are kind of exempt. But like everyone from the 60s forward, I would say at least 50s probably. It started in the 50s, so let's say the 60s forward. All right, because that's when the hippies came up, and that was the first, as Yuri Bezmenov says, demoralized generation. That was the first success story that they had. And then from there, it was gone. And none of us, my generation's almost the worst because we had Reagan, and, there was a pushback against all that during the 80s. And we were just swaggy and cocky and just were like, there's no way. They can't do that in America. No way. No way. But slowly and slowly, all the professors were being taken over. Right now, all the PhDs in our universities, for the most part, not all of them, but almost enough to say, when you say all of them, you're not that far off. Almost all of them are teaching gibber because they were taught gibber, and they're walking around with PhD. When I say gibber, I mean economists teaching friggin' modern monetary theory, or history teachers teaching the 1618 Project. Like they teach these things. If you're young and you're coming up and you don't know any better, and you go to college, and it doesn't matter. You could be in Harvard. Imagine being in Harvard. And you're like, dude, I'm in Harvard. I'm not going to believe a guy with a PhD from Harvard. I'm going to believe you and your stupid YouTube channel. And never before in history has the answer been absolutely. Run from that freaking guy like the plague. Run from that guy like the plague. He doesn't even know how dumb he is. And in the end, because in the end, his teachers were raised through, like, we're so deep in right now that we're like 4, 5, 6 generations of professors that have come up and taught the next generation of professors. Like they're so baked into believing that they're right, and that all of this makes sense, that this new monetary theory, this modern monetary theory makes sense. When all you have to do is look at it for like 20 minutes with a rational mind and no PhD trying to gaslight you and tell you that it's legitimate. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy, but here we are. Here we are, right? That Stephanie Kleinman, whatever, she's like one of the most connected people on this. And when you listen to her talk, when you listen to her TED Talk, and we did that when we did the Modern Monetary Theory episode, we went through that chick and like what she believes, and you got it from her own mouth. I mean, she honestly believes that it absolutely does not matter how much money the United States spends. She believes that it's endless. That is, not only does she believe that, she believes there has to be deficit spending. I mean, it's psycho. Everything that she's basing her talk on depends wholeheartedly and totally on the United States having the world reserve currency. All of it. The second that reserve currency comes out, she'll have built, and not just her, Reagan, everybody contributed to this ever since the gold standard left. That's it. They started building this enormous house of cards. And the only glue holding all those cards together was the fact that we were the world's reserve currency. That Nixon cut a deal with the Saudis to allow all petrol purchases to be done in oil, in U.S. dollars, among other things. But that's all it depends on, is the world reserve currency. The second that gets threatened, and it's being threatened right now. Okay, it's being seriously threatened right now. Now, I'm not saying that Russia, by only accepting rubles from European nations for oil, I'm not saying that's going to bring the ruble up past the dollar. No, it's not. The yuan, if they're allowed to buy their petrol from Saudis in yuan, is that going to put China's yuan above the U.S. dollar? Not immediately, no. But what it does is it establishes them as a legitimate rival, which before that, there was no legitimate rival. But now there is. All right, so I got for Barbara here. It was Harvard professor working with that Chinese nationalist. Yeah, they were smuggling biosamples before COVID. There's a lot of Harvard has a lot of ties. There's a bunch of different stories that tie, not just with COVID. There's a bunch of different stories that tie between Harvard, Yale, and China. China's been doing this very craftily for a very, very long time. Like, we're just waking up to it recently in recent years, but that's just because we're waking up to it. But this has been going on for decades, and we have all sleepwalked through it. And we could say what we want. We could pretend like we didn't know. I knew. Almost every now, there were a few people out there, because I do recall them even in the 90s and 80s telling me these things, and I just dismissed them as idiots. But it's not, look, not knowing about it then is not an excuse to not accept it now. Like there's just, people have to get over the pride thing and understand that you can't just close your eyes and hope this one goes away. It's not going away. The only thing that's going to go away is your freedom. And I used to say that, and you know, a year or two ago, I would have said it's going to go away slowly, but it ain't going away slowly now. I'm telling you, 2024 is a target year. They want to get stuff done before 2024. The good part about that is they're moving faster than they otherwise would have, and it's starting to, it should help open eyes. It should help open eyes. Okay, like what's going on right now with our food supply, all of those companies that I listed, all of those fires and all of those explosions, more than one per month in the last year, that's not a coincidence. That's not a coincidence. Like, you can't dispel stuff like that. Stuff like that. You see the shirt? Once you see, you can't unsee, okay? That's what it means. Okay, because if you're... Now, I understand if you didn't even know that all these things happened, that all these places were on fire and all the... That's fine. That's acceptable because the information's not out there. And it's not easy to stumble upon a channel like mine where it's not, you know... It's not like all the big players are talking about it because they're all afraid that their channels will be labeled as loons and I don't want to lose my base and blah, 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 blah. Well, I ain't getting paid for this. So, like, you know what? I could care less. And even if I was getting paid for it, I could care less. I could stop talking about this right now, and Facebook might start distributing my content again. YouTube might start distributing my content again. But I can tell you all of my stats fell off a cliff as soon as I started talking about this. We were moving on a quick pace to 1,000. We were steady pace, not quick. It was steady, you know, but right at 850, we started talking about this, and that's it. We've been stuck at like 862 subscribers now since this thing started. Meanwhile, the first video for it got like 57,000 views. It's probably somewhere in the 70s right now, if they didn't totally, you know, shadow ban it. But in the end, like, it was taking off. All the videos on this topic were taking off. I was happy to see it because it made me think that people were starting to wake up. But then, poof, it went away. So you know what? I need your help. If you see a video come up that's informative on a topic like this, share it. Share it. Because I don't have any other way of distributing the content. I even tried to give them money. I even tried to give them a $10 boost on one of the posts because it was doing well for that first 1,000. It hit like 1,000 views in like a few hours. And I was like, oh, let me give it a little boost. Dude, do you know that the post did better organically than it did with the $10 boost? And I'll never pay for another boost again. That was the last one I paid for. Because clearly somebody's looking. I mean, I literally paid them $10 and they put it in front of like 100 people. Like, the reach was like 100 people. Like, they ain't even trying to hide it with me. They ain't even trying to, like, you know, because at first, right, you think it's your content. You think your content sucks. You're like, oh, man, maybe I got to work on the production. Maybe this, you know, maybe my topics were offline. Maybe, you know, was I babbling? Like, what happened? And then friggin', you know, then you start looking at the numbers and you're like, yeah, no, it's not me. It's not me. And that's where we're at. So, you know, look, like I said, subscribe to the Rumble channel. We could really use your help on YouTube, though. Even just for the sake of it, I would like to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So we're sitting pretty at like 862. So anybody who can get on there and just and you know, hopefully like-minded people. I don't want those fake subscribers. I'd rather wait. But if you're into the content and you're into the information and you're cool with sharing stuff and you want to get involved, you want to have these kind of chats and just maybe you learn something, maybe you teach me something, you know, that's the think tank, right? That's what we're doing, right? And of course, yes, we're advocating Article 5 heavily, and we do that all the time, all right, because it is the answer. It is the answer. And I'm not shying away from that for 1 second. Article 5 is the only way. Calling a convention of states and amending the Constitution of the United States without any say from the federal government to restrict their power is the only way their power will get restricted. The only way. Outside of a bloody revolution. But the whole point of the Convention of States concept was to avoid that. Mason says that outright. That it's better than leaving it to violence and chance. Pedro Tavares said, Klaus Schwab teach the Nazis philosophy he got from Germany, elitist, racist, dictatorial. Yep, absolutely. He came in Europe for dominate all the European states to create an artificial federation. Different are the cultures, traditions of all. Yeah, and so I think I got the gist of that. So. And what Pedro's saying, Pedro, if you'd comment where exactly you're commenting from, that's an interesting comment. But yeah, so, and I think what you're saying is Klaus went in and kind of did this to Europe before he started, trying to pull the United States into it. And he did. And Europe is an easier grab with the exception of Britain. The UK is, they're obviously we got a rough history with them, right? But we also have a good history. And in the end, the UK and the people of Britain are very, very, very like-minded with America. And when it comes to their autonomy, when it comes to, they would not accept the euro. They stayed with the pound. They went through and passed Brexit. They want no part of the European Union. They want to run their own country. And frankly, the European Union on its own without Britain is a fighting force that is laughable. Like without the Brits, like Europe is just like, well, whatever. Like someone who wants to take it over will just walk in and take it over. Like, they ain't even going to fight back. Like Europe's a joke in that way. When it comes militarily, they're a joke. If we ever had to depend on them, you know why they're not going in to do anything yet with NATO is because if they do, they know China is going to go into Taiwan, and we're obligated to Taiwan. And because NATO isn't technically obligated to Taiwan because they're going to have their own conflict, we're going to have to go ahead and move all our forces there, which is going to leave them alone. And they don't like to be alone. They don't like to be alone. So in the end, now do I think that there's a very good chance that we're going to end up sending ground troops into Ukraine at some point? I think there's a good chance of that. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, in the end, when you realize that this isn't about Ukraine, and you're trying to put these pieces together, but the only thing you have really to go on is the fact that we know for 100% assurance that the United States and NATO have been lying through media in the messaging for this campaign. So all we really know is what it's not about. We don't know exactly what it is about. I have my thoughts as to what I think it's about, okay? And I think it's 100% about this whole reset piece. I think it's 100% about that. I mean, China and Russia mentioned it in their own statement back in March, in early March. They talked about New World Order, only they were talking about it from them creating a New World Order. A New World Order with polarized, with polar countries that are individual, that are working independently, that are not a part of a global union. They're not going to come out and make statements like that. And they talked about it as like, yeah, it's the Chinese, Russian, Indian, alliance or something like that. And I think South Africa is in on that too. All right, it's like a half the world's population right there. All right, China and India alone. All right, so in the end, they know that this is coming. They know what the European, Union is up to, what NATO is up to, what the United States is up to, what creepy guys like this, like freaking Klaus Schwab are up to. They know. They show up to these freaking World Economic Forum meetings. They've been listening to these sociopaths talk about this for freaking decades, okay? They're very attuned to how crazy these people are and how stupid these people are. They surround themselves, I don't have an image, I don't think, of Saudi Zahiri. I might, hold on.
He will be leading over the next months.
No, I don't have a still image of her. So it is what it is. But in the end, like I know, what does it say? What about Georgia Guidestones? Yeah, the Georgia Guidestones are creepy. There's no doubt about that. If you guys are not familiar with the Georgia Guidestones, back in the 80s, someone had put up these monoliths that basically, laid out. No one knows. Only one person knows who did it, and they're honoring their promise to not tell anyone. So, no one really knows who put them up and who funded it, but they put these monoliths up that say, world population will be reduced to 500, I forget what it was, maybe 500 million or maybe even 500,000, I forget. But it was it was a creepy kind of Great Reset type of deal too. So those monoliths were a little spooky. There's no doubt about that. Mern M says, "Hey George, keep up the great work." Thank you, Mern. Thank you. Barbara says there are countries that have signed with them. Signed with who? I might have lost you there. I might be on a different topic, and I'm not fully understanding. I've signed with China, I think you mean, right? China and Russia. Yeah, there are a lot of countries that are on the fence right now. So if everyone thinks that we're still living in a world where everybody's just going to side with the United States, countries don't like the idea. They actually... It's not that they want China's yuan or Russia's, ruble to be world dominant, because countries generally don't like dictators, don't like to have world currency tied to dictators, because it's just way too all over the place. But at the same time, there are countries who are kind of sitting this one out. And, it was telling in the UN when countries like Israel, all right, did not condemn the actions in Ukraine. Okay. And they weren't alone. There were dozens like that who you thought would have just been on our side. And we're like, nope, we're just going to sit this one out. And they're sitting it out because they too understand that this Great Reset crap is going on. And they're not 100% confident that because they know if it goes on, we're no longer going to be dominant. Because if once it goes on, we can't be dominant or it's not working. That's the whole point. They have to knock the United States down in order to get everybody equitable, right? We're talking equal outcomes here. So we need everyone equitable, which means the U.S. dollar can't be worth more than anybody else's dollar. You got to wrap your head around this, folks. You got to wrap your head around this. I understand it's a lot, but it ain't that much. The general theme of it is very simple. Bad guys, globally, okay? Good guys, here, we the people, right? Solution, Article 5, Convention of States. You don't need to know any more than that. All you need to do, all right, all you need to do is know that there's really bad stuff coming down the pike, and it's coming fast. We're not talking some dystopian future. We're talking dystopia right now, okay? Dystopia in a year or two. All right? A lot of bad things are going to happen between now and 2024. This is not getting better because it's intentionally being made this way. Okay, all of these crises that are happening, what's going to happen, okay, is that they're going to turn around and they're going to say, look at this crisis we're in. Look at this crisis we're in, and we can't, and now that we're in this crisis, we have to enact these emergency measures. And once again, it will be a crisis that they created. So, for all these people, you listen to them talk, and they're like, well, all the damage that coronavirus has done to our economy. No. Coronavirus didn't damage our economy. You did. It wasn't coronavirus it wasn't this virus that 99.97 people survived. That's not what killed our economy. It was your horrific decision making that killed our economy. That's what killed it. And it wasn't even, horrific decision making is subjective, right? Because they got what they wanted, but it was, for us, it's horrific decision making. But you sit there and you look at all these things going on. How many things right now are going on in the world where you're like, this doesn't make any sense? How many things, right? Like Coca-Cola putting out trainings to say, be less white. Who does that? Who does that? It's the dumbest thing ever when you think about it, but yet there it was. Right? Disney wants to make half of its characters transgender. What? Your children's television. What are you talking about? Like there's no way parents are in line with that kind. No one who really gave a shit about viewers would have even thought to do that if they were running a children's network. But there they are. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. There are so many things that don't make sense, and there are answers to them all. But you got to open your mind to the answers. And stop just accepting that things don't make sense. They do make sense. It's just that what makes them make sense is creepy as all hell. But you can't not pay attention to it because it's creepy as all hell. I was with you guys in the sense where I never look until they started telling us about it, until creeps like this started coming on to forums and posting stuff to YouTube and building websites and making advertisements about what they want to do. Like until they started doing that, I wasn't buying in. But now that they're doing it, like, dude, they're telling you. like you don't have the luxury. You can't call me crazy, right? Or anyone like me. You can't call them crazy. It's happening. They're telling you. They're announcing it. They're advertising it. They're promoting it. They're scheming it. They're working the whole thing out. They're ironing out the details. You can't still sit on your couch and be like, this is not happening. Or I'm going to close my eyes and this is not happening. And you can't be one of the 40% that I always talk about from Solomon Ash's study. You can't be those people who know that everything is crazy, like you get it, but you know what? I'm going to do whatever they want so that they let me have my freedom. Like that's insane. You know how there's 40% of our population right now who know how bizarre all this crap has been and keep complying with it. And they keep complying with it, not because they think it's real. Everybody knows how dumb it is to have to put a mask on when you stand up in a restaurant and take it off when you sit down. Everybody knows how dumb it is to have to wear a mask at a casino, but then if you smoke a cigarette where you're blowing into the air, you can take your mask off. Everybody knows that these things are stupid and they make no sense, but that it's 30% who are following along in a mass psychosis. And if you don't know what that is, I did an episode on that as well from Dr. Dimitri, I'm forgetting his last name now. You'll find it. You just look up mass formation psychosis. It's a real thing. But there are 30% who are in on that. And then there's 40%, well, there's another 30%, I should say, who see all the bullshit and they call it bullshit. And those are the people that walk into the stores and like they don't put a mask on unless somebody walks up to them that says you cannot shop unless you have a mask. And even then, they need to really need whatever it is they went in to shop for in order to wear that mask, right? There's 30% that are like that. There's 30% who are buying, no matter what, no matter how crazy or irrational the stuff is, that 30% is going to buy in. And then there's that 40%. There's that 40% that are out there who know that this is all nonsense. They know, they look at stuff like this, like what we talked about today. Really, one major food processing plant a month has been blowing up or being burnt down, and like they see this stuff happening and they know that it's not normal and they know that it's a problem. They know that the mask stuff made no sense. They know that there was no real reason to haze people over these vaccinations. And why is the government cracking down on a vaccination for such a mild virus? Why is all of these things happening? And they know that it's wrong. But they shut up, they stay in line, they do whatever they're told because their rationale is, I just want to be left alone, right? I don't want to make waves. This is where their mentality is. And here's the problem with that 40%, okay? You are the problem. Okay, it's not the 30. It's not even the 30% that are buying in and will do anything. It's you. It's you who are the problem. And the reason you're the problem is because that 30% looks to you as you obey and do all this irrational crap. And in their head, they think 70% are okay with it. They think 70% agree with them. And that it's the 30% who are speaking out who are the loons. You follow me? I know people don't see it that way, but that's 100% true. And Barbara says people still don't believe it. No, they don't. And the fact of the matter is, like, it's on us, right? It's on us to get vocal and say something. Like the United States is the last stand for the world. Don't get it twisted. when we fall, okay, if we were to fall, it's over everywhere. There's zero resistance coming from Europe. It's over. We are the shining city on a hill. As battered and beaten as we are, our Constitution has still protected us enough. It may have taken some licks, but it's still holding. It's still holding. They're trying to get around it. They're using tech companies and whatever they can, but it ain't getting around it. I can get thrown off 2 out of 4 channels today, but you know what? The other 2 I'm still on. They can't come and take it from me. All right, so Barbara's saying, I have no friends or family left. They don't want to believe it. Yeah, and that's, look, again, you're obligated almost to wake these people up. Like Yuri Bezmenov had said in his interviews, and if you don't know Yuri Bezmenov, we talk about him all the time. He was a KGB, he's a KGB propaganda expert who defected to the U.S. in the 70s, in 1970 actually, did a famous interview that's now famous in 1984 of all years. It's available on YouTube. We quote him all the time, but he breaks down what the whole psych op was. And according to him, like once you've been demoralized, you're lost. Like you can't, once someone's been demoralized, in his words, he's like, I could take you to the gulags. I could take you to the concentration camps in Russia and show them to you. You will still deny it and swear that communism is the way to go. Once they've got you to that point, there's no turning back. He's like, the only way to fix this is to raise the next generation to not be that way and to have American values and American principles. And I don't believe that per se. I think there are examples of people who are like that, but I don't think everybody's like that. I think that guy, Brandon Stroka, who started that hashtag walkaway movement, like that guy was dead proof of it. I used to subscribe to that, and I used to get that post every day from people. And it's not so much like I was a Democrat, now I'm a Republican. It was like, I didn't see, and now I see. And that was mostly what some of them were tying it to Trump or tying it to the Republican Party or whatever. But in the end, most of them that came through, when you listen to their story, it wasn't so much about, it was the Democrats in their city or whatever that, they realized they were pawns. They realized, that they were pawns. And they started to open their eyes and they started to see. And like this shirt right here, just as a point, like if you can't read what's underneath, it's like hashtag BlackRock, hashtag Disney, hashtag Save the Children, hashtag Great Reset. And it's really small because I wanted people to have to like work to see it. Like I didn't want, the whole point was, you got to put in effort to see it. Right. And so, and I love it. It's like my favorite shirt ever because people come up and they're like, what is this? It's like, so now you've seen it, you can't unsee it, right? So, but in the end, it's true, right? And I think to all of us who have been so-called red-pilled or, have opened our eyes, we're not always right? We're not always right, but we certainly understand what's going on. We certainly know, like we know enough to say out loud that there are things that are very, very, very wrong going on right now, and that those things need to be addressed. And then Murnam says, I feel yes, so many of us are there also. Yeah, a lot of family members, and look, if you're a family member, well, heck, a family member that would leave another family member because they can see, I'm pretty sure they're not listening to me right now. But if you're in that situation, you got to keep trying. You got to keep trying to bring them in. It's worth the effort. It's worth the effort. I can tell you, there's this saying like, oh, I argued with someone on the internet and changed their mind, said no one ever, right? Well, I say it. I do it all the time. I do it with Article 5 all the time, and I do it with stuff like this all the time. Now, it's not regular. I would say the amount of people that I turn over are probably, 8 to 1, 10 to 1 maybe. But so what? If I did it with 50 people over the course of whatever time, that's 5 people that I've helped and probably changed their lives. So it matters. It matters. And even in the Solomon Asch study, when everyone, there was the conformity study, even when the numbers were so high of people wanting to conform and give the wrong answer, even though they knew it was right, when only one person, so like there were 6 people there, they all gave the wrong answer, and the last person gave the wrong answer as a result at a high percentage. But if they had even one of the other people give the right answer as well, the numbers changed dramatically. Dramatically. Like the subjects now had someone to cling to and didn't seem isolated and didn't seem alone, and they felt much better going up against the group with that one person that they have on their side than they would by themselves. All right, it's a human psychology thing, folks, and it's honestly it's something that we should be aware of, because you can be that one person. You can be that one person. When someone else is by themselves, look, if you see and you try to explain things like I'm talking about today, if you try to show somebody all of these explosions and all of these fires and all of this stuff, and you try to put it in context of everything else that's going on with the bird flu and these biolabs, it's so much to take in that it's very easy to find yourself being alone. It's very easy to find yourself being alone. In my own home, my wife don't want to talk about this stuff with me. She wanted no part of it. That's why I started a channel, so I could download it all on you guys. but in the end, like she's interested in politics and she pays a little bit of attention, but like she's not on my level. Like she's not spending a few hours going down the DuckDuckGo holy hole and finding out all of this detailed information. Like she's not gonna do all that. So when it comes to it, it's like, who do I talk to? Right? And there's not a lot of people that want to hear it. But I talk to them anyway. I could care less. I don't care. Don't hang out with me. I'm good. I like me. So I got time. But if you're going to come at me and you're going to ask a question, I'm going to give you the right answer. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're my boss. I don't care if you're, if you're just some dude in a grocery store. I don't care. And unless you have an answer or I'm going to tell you I don't know if I don't know. But if you have an answer that's better than mine, let's hear it. Let's hear it. Because I'll probably take that answer, disagree with it initially, and then quietly go back and research it and see if there's any merit to it. Which is what we should all be doing. It's what we should all be doing. Because the fact that anyone who hears this, because the media is not covering any of this. All right? It's all so-called fringe media like me. Right? It's all crowdsourcing. It's all people just sharing information, which is what the tank is all about, right? That's the whole point. We started this episode off with someone dropping some links in for us for more information about it, right? A buddy of mine who follows this stuff, but my buddy Ruben, different Ruben than the one who thinks I'm talking about, and he follows this stuff tightly, and he thought it was like 12 places that blew up, when in reality it was like 19. And they're still blowing up. Like the last one was like a week ago. It's not like it's over. They're continuing to spontaneously combust, if you will. Whether there's a fryer accident, a conveyor belt accident, or this accident, or that accident. It's just, again, any one of these situations, you might just blow off and go, it must have been an accident, it must have been this or that. But really, no way. There's no way one major food processing plant goes down every month, on average. More than that. There's no way. But yet here we are, right? Here we are. And, of course, that's not the only coincidence, right? We've got that happening at the same time that there's a bird flu pandemic with a novel H1N1 virus, right? So, novel, huh? Couldn't be gain-of-function research, could it? No, I would never. I mean, our government would never do such a thing. I'm sure Fauci would never allow something like that to happen, right? I'm sure that. Like, we're in a bad place, folks, and there's only one thing that we can control. And that's what we want to get across here. There's one thing that we can control, and that's our own government. And it may seem like we can't control them, but we can control them. But the first step is to understand what the process is, and we've got Article 5 for Dummies videos out there. If you go to our website, there's a great PragerU video on there as well. Right? Because, look, if we don't take our own country back, freakazoids like this guy, okay? Like this guy here. Which way is my thumb going? Here we go. This guy here with his little spacesuit, right? That he bought at friggin' Villains R Us, right? This is the guy. This is the guy that's going to end up helping you out and making sure if you don't do anything, he's going to go ahead and make sure that you never have to do anything. You just sit back, you'll own nothing, and you'll be happy. right? That's not a world that any of us want to live in. It's not a world that any of us want to live in. And then Mern M says now they said don't feed the birds at your house. Yeah, your feeder is a super spreader. Like, yeah, look, they create all of these problems and then they try to swoop in and save us from them. And there's nothing they love more than emergency powers. Nothing. Which is another thing that we need to address that really wasn't on the original list, but really needs to get talked about as a part of the government overreach amendment is these emergency powers. Like, this needs to get dealt with. Because this whole, well, I'm just going to declare emergency powers and all of a sudden nobody has rights, that just ends. That needs to just end. It's clear that those powers are going to be abused and have been abused for how long now? For how long? I mean, it's nuts. It's nuts. So for those, see, we got about 16 or 17 people on still. So I'll just follow through with this one piece about, and that's across channels, guys. So if you're looking at your own network, we're streaming to like 4 different venues, and I'm only seeing the collective of everybody. So, but in the end, look, if you don't know what the amendments are, it's term limits for all government officials, not just Congress, but for deep state, Supreme Court, right? That creepy dude in the black hat that sits in and asks for and writes up the black budget that nobody knows what the hell's in, right? Yeah. Mern says, yes, it was only supposed to be used in actual emergencies, not for control. Yeah, but then it never goes away, right? It never goes away. And that's the thing, right? These things never go away. But like, just to finish that, it was term limits for all government officials. You've got, and that includes staffers, Supreme Court, deep state, et cetera. Then you've got the fiscal restraints, right? This is how we bring our dollar back, right? This is how we bring our dollar back. Now, we're not going to pay off a $30 trillion, debt in like a year, right? It's going to take time. But in the end, if we even start paying it down to the point where we've stopped the debt clock, right? That we're now paying slightly more than principal. We're paying slightly more than interest. We're paying more than interest. If we get to that point, the dollar will immediately skyrocket in value. Skyrocket in value. All right. That means everybody's money, just like it's negative now, because they're blowing too much money and pumping too much money, and your money's becoming worthless. The same inverse will happen when the debt starts to get paid down. And it's just all we need is a plan to continue to pay it down. Right? And a balanced budget amendment put into the Constitution of the United States will do that. And the idea, some people say, well, they don't follow the Constitution now. They do follow the Constitution now for the most part. What we don't realize is that there's a 3,000-page book out there that's annotated with every single Supreme Court decision ever made on the Constitution, and that's what they go off of. So the Supreme Court, over a century or more, has bastardized the Constitution in many, many, many ways, allowing, with the Commerce Clause, and they just give, they give the government the ability to tax anything, anyway, anyhow. It's like they joke and say, there's wide-reaching powers to tax. No, there aren't wide-reaching powers to tax. As a matter of fact, originally income tax was unconstitutional. So they had to make an amendment to tax your income. So I'd like to see that get appealed too. I know there's some people talking about appealing that as well. Or how about a single subject bill? That's also being talked about should the convention be called. Okay, is that when you write a bill, it has to be on one subject. You can't tack 9 different unrelated items on the back of the bill and then try and pass it. Right? These are major, like these are concepts, folks, that are sweeping. Like they're sweeping. And it may not be it. There may need to be another convention after that. But just put these 3 in perspective, right? You get your balanced budget passed. Let's say you overturn the income tax. You move to a consumer tax, right, where everybody pays now, even homeless people, everybody. You bum money from someone, you go buy something, you just paid taxes. Everybody contributes. Right? So, and you can, super tax luxury items, do whatever you want. But the fact of the matter is, that's the fair way to do it. That's the way the country was designed to do it. And that's not what we're doing now. Right now, what we did with the income tax is initiate this immense wealth redistribution program. That's all it is. But anyway, the last piece is government overreach. So that would end the ability for the government to even consider doing things like having an organization like OSHA try and put out mandates or all those. They would be over. It wouldn't even be a discussion because the federal government would have no control. OSHA would be useless except on a state level. Except on a state level. States are responsible for their own health and safety hazards, health and safety checks and things of that nature. So maybe they have an OSHA, maybe they come up with their own, or whatever they want to do is fine. But the federal government doesn't have authority to do that, period. They have no business in education. There should be no Department of Education at all, period. Done. Now, is that going to stop them? Even if you shut down the Department of Education, is that going to stop them from trying to bribe local legislators? No, they're still going to come after them, and it's going to be on your local legislator to not take the money. That's what it's going to be. But in the end, they'll be out. They'll be out as far as Department of Education is concerned. We'll save $1 trillion right there. I don't know what the exact cost. I'm sure it's close to $100 billion. And the fact of the matter is, you get these amendments passed. Aside, now I just went through what all the good stuff about them are, but now remember this: there's a precedent that gets set here, right? There's a precedent that gets set, and that precedent is significant. Okay, it's significant, and the reason that it's significant. The reason that it's significant is because now the government knows. It's never been done before. We've never been able to organize ourselves as a people to go ahead and change our own constitution. We've always been told what it's going to change to. We've never been able to organize ourselves from the bottom up and make a change to it. We've never really, we've tried, but the issues were never as unifying as the issues are now. Things were never as bad as they are now. And that's why it's moving so quickly now. That's why, we started this year out. In the first 3 months, we got 4 more states on board. We're at 19 right now. We need 34. We've got another 17 or so that if we all get together and start pressuring our legislators, they can start, they're ready to vote. They need to hear it, though. They need to know that there's pressure. They need to know that the grassroots care. The reason why we got 4 in 3 months is because the grassroots in those states were on fire. They were on fire. But I watch all these debates of these state legislatures, and I can tell you that they're turning. They're all starting to get it. And there's a reason why the state legislators are the ones, and they're the ones for one simple reason. All right? They're the ones because they are the ones that are closest to the people. Period. Not your governor, not the president, not Congress. None of them are close to the people. As much as Floridians love DeSantis, you ain't walking into DeSantis' office. You're not likely to get a legitimate response to a direct email or such. However, you will get a response from your state legislators because they're covering much smaller ground. And again, it's designed to be that way. So that's who you manipulate. And really, in general, even convention of states aside, our state legislatures, they were thought of as the most powerful people in the government. And we allowed that to slip away. So I think, I think in the end, that's what we have to get back to. But first and foremost, there's no more time to argue about convention of states. There's no more time about it. There's no more time to do it. These guys are coming, and they're coming hard. They're coming hard, and they got game, and they've been planning, and they're organized. And I can tell you, you can sit there and start talking about how many coincidences keep happening, but you're going to see an awful lot of coincidences that always result in an awful lot of emergencies and an awful lot of bad lifestyle for your family, okay, that are going to be coming up in the coming 1.5 to 2 years. They're getting this done. But I guarantee you that these explosions or these fires and this bird flu plague, this novel H1N1, and all of it, the crazy freaking corona restrictions, it's never going away. Never. If you think getting your 8th booster is going to make you feel better, go get it. But you know what? It's not making this go away. You want to yell at somebody, anti-vaxxer, you want to yell at somebody because they got vaxxed. Oh, you're wearing a mask, I ain't wearing a mask. Nobody cares. Like, these guys don't care. They're coming anyway. They don't give a shit what side of the... Oh, you're Republican, you're a Democrat. Oh, yeah. They don't care. You're all minions. On their level, you're all minions. We are all minions. They don't care that you're a leftist. Even the most devout Marxists who worship these people, they're going to boot their necks too. It's not going to make a difference. It's not going to make a difference. We're the only ones. That's it. Us. We the people. We're all that's left. We're all that's left. Not even all that's left for our country. We're all that's left for the world. We're all that's left for the world. And at some point, we have to recognize that. And if you want to make, whoa, I'm sliding here. If you want to make a difference, if you want to truly change the big issues, and stop yelling about them and stop, we could yell about them. We can get mad about them. You should be mad. But in the end, we got to do something. Like how many years go by and we don't do anything? We all know what the problem is. Now we know what the solution is. So now we should be doing something. Now we should be doing something. And Article 5 is that solution. So let's do it, right? Let's do it. All right, we're at 6:30. That's actually a half an hour longer than I had expected to go, but we did have a fair amount of people on, so I do appreciate everyone who dialed in. We were up over 20 for pretty consistently for quite some time there. I am still putting out, please make sure you subscribe and follow. I am still putting out that video for to go over the corporate woke and get into some of the ESG standards that we talked about in separate videos, but really kind of get into the fact that they're already in play. So if you're wondering why you work for a large company, you're wondering why you're taking a training on transgender or whatever, like there's a reason for it. There's a reason for it. They're being scored on it. And if they fail that score, it means big money. So Elon Musk has recently, reached out about it as well, has tweeted out about it, which was pretty interesting, I thought. But in the end, that's what we're going to cover. It's not going to be a live shot. It's going to be just recorded video, quick hit, put out. I almost got it done already, but I got distracted when this happened. When once I looked up and saw the first 5 of them, I was like, holy crap, how far does this go? And then, after 19, I was like, all right, I need to put the other video on hold, and we need to have a conversation about this one. So I'm glad we were able to have that conversation. Thank you to those on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, and so forth. But on that note, I'm out.
And like that.